Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reacting to this video titled The Chilling Story of Serbia's Human Slaughterhouse. I do want to just say right off the bat that this is not really so much a politics video, but I was recommended this in my Discord server. So if you want to request any content for me to watch, even if it's not really politics related, then I'm open to potentially reacting to it. But I will try to keep the main focus of my channel on politics though. But yeah, let's get into it.
It looks like a simple house in a rural suburb outside Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. Nothing looks out of order from the outside. But in 2021, when police searched it, they found a secret door in the garage leading to a hidden room. And in this room, they found an industrial meat grinder. But this meat grinder wasn't used for animals.
I think I'm having a good guess at what it was used for.
It was used by a criminal group to grind up human beings. They tortured their victims, often decapitated them, extracted the organs, cut them into small pieces, and then put the flesh through the grinder. They bagged the remains and carried them to the nearby Danube River, where they dumped them in the water. How do we know this? Because the criminal group took pictures of the process, and then they sent these pictures to their friends to brag. And sometimes they also sent the pictures to their enemies to taunt and warn them. They document...
I don't really understand why they would kill people just to put them into a meat grinder and throw them into a river. I would imagine that if they wanted to have their flesh or something, they'd probably kill them. Then they'd probably harvest their remaining undamaged organs and probably do something with it. I don't know.
Did this process all on highly specialized encrypted phones that they thought were secure. They never thought the phone's encryption could be cracked.
Don't commit crime, guys. Never commit crime. But what I will say is that if I didn't want anyone else to find out about anything, I would not use an electronic device. I always presume that anything which I do on an electronic device can be recorded in some manner.
But it was. And no one thought this whole brutal mess would connect to Serbian law enforcement and officials. But again, it did. I'm 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐒, a journalist and filmmaker at the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. I'm going to walk you through this whole bizarre story and introduce you to the journalists who connected this group's rise to top Serbian officials. The only reason I can tell you this story is because these supposedly uncrackable, highly encrypted phones were in fact cracked. And here's how it happened. Most people are familiar with mobile apps like Messenger, WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal. These are the most popular services that offer encryption. They are all thought to be secure to some extent, meaning authorities are not...
I've heard things about WhatsApp which don't really make it all that secure, but I can't remember what it was. But I think that I've heard about some problems with WhatsApp.
Known to be able to break the encryption and read the messages. But this group was using modified phones and software made by a company in Canada called 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒. They were advertised as some form of ultimate security. In addition to strong encryption, they had features like self-destructing messages and the ability to wipe the phone remotely. Now in 2019, European authorities started a cross-border investigation because they suspected that these phones were being almost exclusively used by criminals. The authorities discovered the backup servers were in France, and in 2020, a specialized encryption unit is able to crack the group messages feature of these Sky phones. So now, authorities are able to secretly read over 2 million messages. And this is about the same time
That tells me a lot more about the authoritarian tendencies of governments rather than criminal organisations. So maybe this video might be more political than I might have initially thought.
The gruesome murders in the Serbian home start taking place. We can deduce that European authorities decrypted these extremely gruesome photos, grew extremely concerned, and decided to share these photos with Serbian authorities. And once Serbian authorities get this information, they're able to determine that one of these suspects is actually quite famous. His name is Veliko Belivuk, and this is his story.
I've never heard of him.
Who we'll just call Belivuk, is the leader of a Serbian group called the Principi.
I've never heard of that group either.
Groups get very complicated, so for the purposes of this story, you just need to remember two of them: the 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒 clan and the 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒 clan, and they are at war with each other.
Of
Now,
course.
Belivuk's group, which roughly translates into the Principled, is allied with the 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒. His clan is mostly street-level muscle and enforcers, made up of football hooligans supporting Serbia's partisan football team. When I say football hooligans, you might not take it too seriously, but in the Balkans, it's very serious business.
I have heard that like Balkan football fans are like the most, how should I put this, probably most unapologetic and probably the rudest. I think I've seen that some video some time ago of like a Greek footballer doing some Nazi salute after he scored a goal, and I think he faced punishment for that in some sort of way. I'm not sure if it was like the government got involved or if it was just like a football level organisation which punished him, but he got in a lot of bother for that from what I remember. And Serbia is like, I don't want to say they're the same as Greece, but let's just say I think they'll be more they'll probably be more political and probably more like hooligan-y than like the UK, for example.
A lot of history and nationalism, and the stadium has always been a firm recruiting ground for organized crime groups. So Belivuk's group is at war. The two groups are assassinating each other with car bombs, snipers, you name it. They are killing and being killed.
I just want to say that just because guns are illegal, and I'm presuming they are like illegal in Serbia, I'm going to presume that gun laws are really strict in Serbia, but that doesn't stop criminals from acquiring guns. If a criminal really wants to get a gun, they'll get a gun one way or another.
These sorts of murders left bodies, so Belivuk's group developed a motto: no body, no crime, and a unique place to realize it for their enemies. They call it the Slaughterhouse.
I do want to say that people have been convicted of murder without the knowledge of, without finding the body, but it has been historically hard to prove a murder without finding the body because they could have disappeared fully, you know.
Our understanding of what happened is from the testimony of 3 crew members turned witnesses, the indictment, and the Sky messages exchanged as the crew went about planning these murders. At the same time, it's very important for me to say that the trial is ongoing. No one has been convicted, and the accused deny the charges. This was the first victim of the Slaughterhouse, for which we have ample photographic and Sky evidence. He was actually Belivuk's friend and a member of the group, but Belivuk got the idea that he was a traitor. Bro, this guy set me up. If everything goes well, in a few days he's going to the Slaughterhouse. Belivuk had a clear message: I can't wait to strangle him. From the day of the murder, we have CCTV stills from the home prior to the victim's arrival. Here are members of the crew arriving. This is Belivuk
Average CCTV quality, I say.
himself. Then the CCTV was turned off. We can only speculate that they didn't want evidence of the victim arriving at the home, but they created their own photographic evidence. We've struggled to determine how to share these photos. It goes without saying they are brutal and sadistic, but at the same time they create a real-time picture of how this technology functioned and also how this group operated. so we are showing illustrations that are based on the actual photographs. This is the victim. They carved treason into his back. From the witness testimony, we know that he was brutally tortured. He was decapitated with an axe and then cut into pieces. He was fed into the meat grinder. They put his flesh into
treason in like the gang world, I presume, is probably interacting with another gang without like your gang's knowledge, or trying to like go against the gang you're in some sort of way, like be some sort of double informant or something. But let's just say that's a very bad thing to do. Don't get involved in gangs at all, really. I think that's pretty obvious, though.
Bags and then dumped it in the Danube River. The next victim they killed because he was in a rival criminal clan. He was lured by an acquaintance who had secretly turned on him under the pretense to buy a gun. The friend drove him to a meadow near the slaughterhouse. When Belivuk's gang was waiting, they jumped him and tied him up, then took him in a van to the slaughterhouse. And then they started sharing photos with their crew on the Sky app. This is Belivuk in the black t-shirt. The man smiling eventually became one of the cooperating witnesses. They cut off the victim's head with an axe. They wrote 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐒 pussy on his back in his own blood. 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐒 was the name of the rival gang's boss. And then sent the murdered man's boss his picture. Let's send him a postcard. Belivuk gloats. Look, Mexico in the middle of Belgrade. Haha. The last one I'll mention was actually the best man to one of the members of Belivuk's group. It took work to lure and persuade.
Just saying, especially in the world of crime, you have no friends. People are only your colleagues who will stab you in the back at any time whenever it's convenient for them, really. Because it's something where people always try to save their own skin over someone else. If like people find out about their scheme, in this case it's the human slaughterhouse.
Victims. They had to find them, surveil them, and do this all without being detected. He was also lured with the promised settlement gun. They brought him to the home above the slaughterhouse. They played with him, made fun of his mask as they took pictures, but at the same time they were sending these pictures to their friends. They made him think he was there still to buy a gun, knowing full well that the whole thing was a ruse. Then they took him downstairs to the slaughterhouse. They joked. He tripped. Awesome. Then Belivuk took an axe and chopped off his head. And his friend got to work. I just chopped him up. Later they described the victim. He was sick in the head. His organs weren't exactly in good shape either. And then Serbian police arrested the gang.
That was a very sudden turn of events, but I'm guessing, at least chronologically speaking, this probably was a sudden event, and he's going to go into what they found out about these people and how they found out about them.
Danas smo razgovarali o svom razbijanju kriminalne bande Belivuk Miljković i sa velikim ponosom mogu da kažem da je ova banda...
I just want to say he looks really Serbian. Vucic, the fridge guy.
So that's it? The government got the bad guys and it's case closed? Not quite. This is where it actually gets interesting.
No.
There have been allegations that the Serbian
Let's see what
government is very
happened.
closely linked to organized crime groups, including Belivuk's group. I visited with my Serbian colleague, Stefan Dojtinovic, in Belgrade. He is probably the most renowned investigative journalist in all of Serbia, known for his investigations into Serbian politicians and organized crime. This is what he told me when I asked him about Belivuk.
This gang was very much tied to Vučić.
Oh.
Not just that, actually, this gang was in a way created by the state. Belivuk group was.
I mean, even by Serbian standards, this is a little bit surprising, but maybe I shouldn't be all that surprised. I honestly don't even know.
Definitely under command of the police. It sounds bizarre, but this is really true.
To understand what Stefan's talking about, we need to take a little step back to 2017, 3 years before the Slaughterhouse murders.
So this is the very famous video. It's CCTV footage of murder that happened in the center of Belgrade. Police arrested actually Belivuk and his associates, and later he was charged for participating in this murder. And not just that, also police seized his phones.
So police got Belivuk's phone and made a report on the WhatsApp messages that they found inside. This report was actually first published by the magazine NIN. I also want to make clear that this report on Belivuk's WhatsApp messages was never supposed to fall into the hands of journalists.
Basically,
Of course, because it's not really meant to fall into the hands of anyone. I think even governments, like if they have evidence of a crime, they prefer to keep it to themselves most of the time rather than actually release it to the public. I do want to say though that governments should absolutely release the evidence of a crime to the public once there's no good reason to keep it confidential anymore.
analyze of Belivuk WhatsApp messages. When you analyze these messages, Belivuk messages from that time, you can see that he was under control of one really important policeman. This policeman was one of the top persons.
He looks like a military commander.
Imamo jake pozicije, brate. Imaš mene, u 10 ljudi sam u policiji, a tu sam na usluzi non stop. So the gendarme that need to deal with hooligans was actually the boss of Belivuk group and giving him direction what he should do, what should not do, what violence he should be involved and what not. And it's pretty quite shocking to have such a leading person in police. Like the gendarme telling this, it's pretty devastating.
But there's another incident with this police officer that is even more fascinating. It's actually a secret recording of him when he's holding a meeting with Belivuk's men. A source contacted
He looks like he's at a football game.
over an audio recording of this meeting.
We managed to get this audio recording. It's one pretty unique thing where we can see that the gendarme was sitting with his members of his group and discussing a lot of things about underworld. It was some sort of kind of team building meeting.
Oh, so were they involved in the police or something, the gang? Did the police know about it and they did nothing?
That the gendarme had a role and that he was some sort of the boss to these hooligans. It's clearly because he's the one who actually leading this meeting and saying this. And so this was kind of definite evidence that we managed to provide in public. But yet, he's still in police.
I want to go now, lastly, back to the messages between the gendarme and Belivuk. It wasn't just one rogue police official, it goes much deeper. So here, the gendarme writes to Belivuk, "Be patient, please. Here is Diana begging you." The gendarme mentions a woman named Diana. He is referring to Diana 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒, as confirmed by the secret police report.
This gendarme was just working on behalf, literally the second most powerful person in Serbian police, and that's Diana 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒. She was officially general secretary of the police, which means literally right-hand man of the minister of police himself. And when he was communicating with Belivuk, he will say that Diana, or D, using the first letter of her name, wants you to do this, or she wants you not to do this. So literally he was just passing her commands to the Belivuk, and that's completely clear from the messages. And not just that, we can see that she was not working on her own, because the gendarme will tell, usually to Belivuk, he'll tell, okay, Diana wants you to do this, but you should also know that boss and big boss, which he never named,
were also agree with her. These politicians were never named in these messages. They were just called boss and big boss.
Of course, they're not going to give their actual names.
Was fired from police. She was hiding these WhatsApp messages from prosecutor, who actually were evidences for high-level corruption.
So Diana, the second most powerful police official in Serbia, failed to hand over the very WhatsApp messages.
The thing I'm thinking now is, how did 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐒 be involved in this scandal in some way? Did it say that, or was it just he reacted to it? I'm actually not too sure. I'm just thinking that I've heard that 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐒 is very unpopular in Serbia right now, and this is probably partly the reason why.
That implicated herself with Belivuk. So is all of this the biggest scandal in Serbia?
Maybe,
No.
I don't know, probably not.
Diana was only charged with abuse of office, and she's already out of prison. Nothing happened to the gendarme. He is still on the police force, as far as we know. The only ones in jail are Belivuk and his gang. And just to make clear, Belivuk denies taking part in any of the murders in the Slaughterhouse. But on another note, Belivuk did testify at the trial that he previously worked for the needs and at the service of President Aleksandar Vučić. And yes, the Vučić government did try to suppress this testimony from becoming public, but Stefan got that too, and he published it. I reached out to President Aleksandar Vučić, Diana 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐒, and the gendarme Nenad Vučković for comment. None of them replied.
My personal opinion as a reporter, I think the people who are corrupt in the government are even worse than Belivuk group itself.
Yes, because their actions affect a larger group of people, which is basically all the people of Serbia. It's potentially because gangs, I would say gangs tend to leave you alone as long as you don't get involved in crime yourself, but the government will be after you regardless of whether you're a law-abiding citizen or not.
Because they're the government and they decide to cooperate with hooligans, with criminals, so they're even worse.
And okay, that's the end of the video, so thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.